I know over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S versions of GTA 5, and rightfully so. They were the new ones that just came out, featuring a ton of exclusive content. But I'm sure there's a lot of you guys that are still playing on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And there's a couple sides of this story that I think are interesting. Number one, Rockstar did actually promise to keep updating the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One systems. The only problem with that is we don't know for how long. Because on the Newswire post, they said this: as we continue to improve and tune the GTA Online experience, we've also made adjustments to increase base payouts on biker cell missions and nightclub daily income on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. And then here's the big part. Going forward, we plan to continue making further adjustments across all versions of the game, in addition to rebalancing other areas such as vehicles commonly used in PvP combat. Stay tuned for details. So that right there certainly looks as if Rockstar is going to continue patching the game, but we don't know for how long, and we don't know if it's only going to be patches or if new things like DLC content is only going to be for the PS5 or Xbox Series X or S. The wording was a little bit confusing there, and that's where we turn to Rockstar Games insider Tez Funds 2, who said this on the GTA forum site. Build ID for the new versions has been reset. Build ID for PS5 is 190.8 and 190.9 for Xbox Series X and S. That's not a great sign for a long-term continued support of last gen. They didn't continue off the last gen build ID, 2545.0. And so it's expected that by that time, the next DLC releases, Rockstar would announce future updates to last gen would be no more. I could be wrong about this, but the signs point towards them discontinuing support much earlier. I mean, eventually the developers would favor working on the newer builds than dealing with the headache that's ensuring compatibility between both new and old builds. So, that's not good. Going back to when we jumped from the PlayStation 3 to the PS4 and Xbox 360 to Xbox One, we basically got about a year's worth of updates and patches before Rockstar said, no mas, you're not going to be getting any more. And it kind of makes you wonder if that's going to be the same thing here. Is it going to be a shorter amount of time? Is it going to be a little bit of a longer amount of time? And you can understand why Rockstar would eventually do this, because A, they would have to make sure that both updates are compatible with like being on a PS4 and a PlayStation 5, but also they're going to be limited. If they keep working on the PlayStation 4 stuff, then they might have their hands tied a little bit in terms of the new content that they can add. And I don't think they want to do that. I think they want to focus on the latest and greatest and the best that they can end up doing. So this might be bad news if you guys are still on the PS4 or Xbox One. Now, I understand that A, not everyone might not be interested in having the new consoles right now. B, they might not have the ability. I remember it was very hard for me to get my PlayStation 5 and my Xbox Series X and S. So that's obviously an issue there. Or number three, or I guess C, you still have most of your friends on the older generations, and because you can't go back and forth, you're not going to jump to the new one quite yet. So I can understand why players would be hesitant to fully moving on, but you guys might not be getting the updates for that much longer. And there was a little bit more follow-up. He said, you know what's interesting regarding the PS5 and Xbox Series editions? The build IDs for these versions has been reset. Xbox and PS5 build ID is 190X, whereas PC is similar to last gen, 2545.0. If the build ID amount to the number of days the next-gen versions have been in development, then that's roughly 6 months of development. However, the sub-ID goes past 5 or 6, like the current one is 190.8 for PS5 and 190.9 for the new Xboxes. And so we can assume there have been tons of variants of the same build. It also makes you wonder what's happening for the PC guys, because they're sort of left in the dark too right now. Rockstar said they were going to continue to update the PC, yet they have none of the new content. The cars, how Special Works Auto Shop, stuff like that. So again, it really does make you wonder if they are going to get left in the dark or if they are going to get some of the new content. It might just not be right at the start. Just something to kind of keep in mind right there. Now the saga continues, because there was some more follow-up with someone saying, so that means that they not only made the E&E, but also tested it for only a period of 6 months. English might not be this guy's first language. I think that's kind of what he was asking. Well, it could be within the period of 6 months, or the more likely scenario is that the development could have gone at an intermittent rate. maybe a few breaks in between, but so far 190 builds were made during E&E development. Builds are typically made daily, but Rockstar could have had a few more variants of the same build within a period of 3 or 2 days. Instead of going to build 191 for a day, they could have went to 190.8, then 190.9 for the following day, etc. A change in the build number sort of indicates a major change. Therefore, variants of the same build aren't that much of a big deal. More importantly, the number of builds is somewhat similar to the number of builds Rockstar go through while developing a new DLC. The contract build ID is 2545 and Tuners is 2372. That's 173 builds in between. If we take that and assume that the contract is based off these new versions, then 17 builds were made after for the new versions to reach build ID 190. I find that questionable for only 170 builds to be made between January to March. So that kind of gives you an idea of the scale that Rockstar might have been working on here in terms of how many updates they made to the game. I agree, 17 seems a little bit light, but you can kind of tell what that gets you. So 173 builds usually means that's going to be a good chunk of content, where 17 would be, well, that's probably not going to be a good chunk of content. I would say it's probably somewhere in between if I were to take a guess. Now, just sort of wrapping up some more stuff here, there was a background update that happened last week. For all platforms, funny enough, it addressed a bug with the Arms Embargo Special Vehicle mission. It actually patched the MOC duplication glitch, and it added the Sentinel to the prize ride list. So I don't know why Rockstar decided to add the Sentinel. That seems kind of weird. Again, it's available on the Southern San Andreas Super Auto site for $90,000. It's not the most exciting vehicle of all time. And then the other things they patched, like the MOC dupe glitch, that's getting rid of a money exploit, and then a bug where you couldn't do the Arms Embargo Special Vehicle mission. So I'm glad they ended up fixing that. And going forward, someone asked an all-important question. Do we know how many of the Hal's Fast time trials in total? And he said it's not possible to data mine the PS5 and Xbox Series versions, so we have no idea. So we don't know how many of these are going to be coming up, but if they're anything like the first one, which was pretty easy, and they pay out a good amount of money. So when the tunables do update come Thursday, I'll be sure to obviously let you know, and we'll see if it's easy to get that another $250,000. But anyways, I'd love to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Let me know what you think about all the information we talked about in this video today. Again, I'd love to hear from you guys down there. If you guys did go and enjoy this video, though, a like rating would of course be awesome. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you want to stay up to date on all the latest GTA and all the Rockstar Games videos that I'll be doing here on my channel. And be sure to ring that notification bell as well. Sometimes YouTube just doesn't work, and if you ring that bell, you'll always be guaranteed to be notified when new videos arrive. But of course, as always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.